Hello, everyone. This is Daquan, and welcome back to the Quixotic Topic. Today, I'm joined by
Justin?
Gray?
And Alex.
and today we'll be talking about friendships and relationships outside of NCSSM. That's standing for the North Carolina School of Science and Math. And so, Justin, starting with you, how would you say your relationships are, I guess, have changed in the context of being at a residential high school?
So before I came to this residential high school, I was at this one really selective. I was at another selective school, and it was a very small community. So coming from a very small community, it was definitely a big jump to be in such a larger community, and also the fact that you're like living with them. That also adds to like the relationships that you make at this school.
How small was your school before?
It was 50 per class.
50 per class. So, like, 50 and then they have, like, one teacher?
No, it was like
So, like, the entire, like, sophomore class was, like, 50 people.
yeah, the entire
Wow.
sophomore class was like 50 people, and there were like maybe 5 teachers that taught different subjects. Yeah, it was a very small
That's
school.
actually
It was a
pretty
very small
It's
school.
like basically homeschool, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
essentially.
wow.
Should
Yeah.
they like do a certain number of students per county or something like that?
Yeah. Are they like that?
Yeah, so they basically take essentially the top 50 of the county, and then what they do is you graduate in school. You graduate from your base school. So they'll say that you graduate from your base school, but you actually do your academics at that school. If that makes any sense.
Okay.
Okay.
Huh, that's
yeah.
a bit odd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And so, what like level of education is this? Is like elementary or middle school?
oh, this was high school.
High school.
It was
Okay.
high schools. Freshman and sophomore year, I was in that school.
Word. And so, Greg, what about you? How have you seen your relationships, I guess, morph in a sense now that you're here?
I think one of like the best examples for me of seeing how my relationships change is that when I go over break, when I came here, I was honestly like a little scared because living away from home, I'm perfectly fine with being away from home, but actually living with like people I've never met before, that was kind of like a daunting concept.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But then I came here, and it was the first extended weekend, which is like at the end of every month we get to go home back to our parents. I felt so bored because I wasn't surrounded by all like my friends and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's one of the biggest things that changed is like I became so like invested in all the people here, and then I go back home and it's like reality. I'm like, oh wow, I actually am not living with these people anymore. That's gonna be kind of weird.
Yeah, definitely. I can totally understand that. Seeing is that I am the only senior in this crowd now that I realize. Alex, same question.
I actually live in Durham.
Really?
Which is where we are right now. So, a lot of my friends I could see right now if I wanted to.
Oh,
It's
word.
just- I think I'm purposely distancing myself from them, and I'm really glad to make friends here. Like a new crowd.
Yeah, I guess it would be weird to kind of make that distinction as like, well, I'm here now because obviously there's people here who have to travel like 2 to 3 hours just to live here, and then of course you are like what 45 maybe
I'm not
less
even,
than.
Yeah, I'm like 15
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah, like 15 minutes away. Like this has been every day for you for like your entire life. It's like me, for example, I live in Charlotte. It's a 2 hour, at least an hour trek by any form of travel if I want to be here or if I want to be at home. And so I guess there's a kind of weird separation of like what exactly is your home in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Question for the entire crowd. When you guys were coming to NCSM, did you know who your roommate was like before?
I actually didn't know my roommate, but like I don't know much about him. So I met him on the welcome day where all the students that were accepted, they were invited to the campus to take like these tests and everything, and that's where I met my roommate, and we saw that we had a lot of similarities, so we were just like, why not room with each other?
Cool. Here.
For me, I only knew about Chris. I'd never even met him before. I just knew him because where I'm from, I'm in like the Johnson Wayne area. I went to schools in both of them. So I know like a lot of people in that area, and everyone was talking about like Chris Crow being like god tier baseball player. So I kind of like I heard the name, but I didn't really know much about him.
Oh wow, so you're living for local legend.
Yeah.
That must be nice. Alex, what about you?
I actually didn't know him. I knew like before move-in day, I knew he was from Raleigh, so he was pretty close too. And it was actually really weird. On move-in day, he showed up at 11, and we were supposed to be like done moving in at 11. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh.
Understand.
He was like, we're gonna go get some, lunch at Red Lobster. I was like, I just got here, dude. I don't know.
I didn't know when I was a junior moving in. I had no idea who my roommate was, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't because that prevented me from allowing to make assumptions on who that person was going to be, and it ended up being an extremely good relationship. In fact, we're still very close to this day. I have a question for you. Since you've kind of been in the Durham area for most, if not all, of your life, when there is people who are like experiencing the wonders of 9th Street, a street very close to the school that is a commercial district full of stores and shops and the like, do you ever feel kind of weirded out that people kind of, I guess, aggrandize this place where I would assume is very mundane for you?
It's not like extremely mundane or anything, but yeah, you guys haven't seen like any of downtown, which is pretty poppin' most of the time.
Mhm.
But yeah, I definitely feel proud. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Durham. I'm like, dude, I know this place, dude.
Right.
so I think it's not like weird, but I definitely feel proud about it, And it's cool to be able to share this experience. Like, hey guys, you've been there, I've been there. Let's be friends.
Yeah.
So I hate to backtrack, but I got a question because you said that when you met your roommate, you were able to room together.
Right.
I did not know that juniors could pick their roommates beforehand.
Oh yeah, they can.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing. I knew
Yeah,
seniors
yeah.
could. I just didn't know that was a thing. All right. Anyway, back.
But hopping on that actually, a lot of the more, I guess, overhead things about NCSM is controlled by Facebook, which is honestly really weird. I don't really agree with that because, like, especially with the copious amounts of emails that they send you,
That's
the amount of
true.
stuff that you can miss by not being on the Facebook page is
Yeah.
hilarious. For example, I remember last year I almost didn't get a ticket to Africa Fest, which is a festival presented by Hope, a African American centered club here on campus. It is about an hour event that is used to celebrate African American culture. I almost missed my tickets for that because the announcement was made on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bridge on that. I did miss it because when they said Facebook, I was like, oh, that's Facebook. That's kind of crusty, not
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
lie.
Right.
And so I got it, but I never looked at it. And then you made the announcement of the Africa Fest tickets, and I went on Facebook, and that's when I realized, oh wait, there are no more tickets.
You're right.
And so it is very weird how you miss a lot of stuff because I remember thinking emails, oh, they're not going to send that much out before school. And
Yeah.
then I go on school a few weeks before I come and I have hundreds of emails that I missed.
Actually, I didn't know that we could use our login as an email, and so it was maybe August. No, it wasn't August because that's when we moved in, but it was only 2 or 3 weeks before. And someone was like, have you checked your email? I was like, we have an email? So
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
pretty late
yeah.
to the party, but I got everything good eventually.
Yeah. One thing that I would do differently if I was managing the school is make it so that Facebook wasn't kind of the central hub of everything.
Yeah.
And because I would say NCSSM is really good at compartmentalizing things in the sense that the academic sector, that's very squared away. You know what to do for that. The social life, there's fairly it's fairly easy to square that away as well. And then in terms of dorm life and things like that everything has its own kind of realm that you enter and that you can enter easily. But I kind of wish that the meeting places for those realms, it wasn't Facebook.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I've used Facebook and I remember not liking it much. For everything about it, it does work. It's pretty easy with all the groups. It's easy to make a group for about pretty much anything on there.
Mhm.
But the fact that it's on Facebook and most I'm not going to check that every day, so you do miss a lot of just stuff that you kind of wish you could do, but you realize, oh yeah, that was from last week when I didn't check it.
Yeah. But I definitely also feel that Facebook is also kind of toxic
Yeah.
For sure,
Yeah.
especially with that
Especially-
new thing going around, right? Yeah.
There was that one parents page. If we're going to talk about the parents page, you get all different kinds of parents and different types of parenting people. I know, like my dad, when I came here, he was just kind of like, all right, so this is like your thing. You just kind of like guide yourself, and I'll be there if you need help. But then there's also, you get the helicopter parents who
Oh, yeah.
want to monitor everything. Like some, I don't remember the student's name, but I'm not going to say it.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For security purposes.
Yes. But her parent would come every like once a week
Mhm.
just to see, like, make sure her room was in order. Which I don't know how I could do that.
Yeah, that
Kind of sounds like a chore. Not
that
just
would
for-
definitely harsh my vibe.
Yeah.
It's a very
Yeah.
archaic term, but still.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of interesting because, like, when you come here, I feel like you definitely, if you want to live here, you should probably start cutting some ties and, like, separating yourself a little bit.
I'm my own man now,
Yeah,
Mom.
exactly.
I'm leaving.
So you have to make, you have to be able to distance yourself from your past to be able to make new connections here that are vital to the survival of yourself at this school.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alex, that's actually an interesting point coming from you, seeing is that, like, you're from Durham. So
Yeah.
how do you go about making that disconnection, seeing as that there isn't really one to be had?
It's like my mom at the first like month was like, "Hey, do you want to go like get dinner and like hang out at home or something?"
Mhm.
And like my friends would offer me to take me places and stuff. I'm like, that would be nice, but I really should stay here and make friends with people. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people couldn't go home on the weekends just because it was really long, but
Yeah.
I could if I wanted to, but I just chose not to because I needed to make friends here, kind of thing.
Mhm. Yeah, you definitely have to prioritize, I guess, how you spend your time a lot more, like a lot more. Time management, of course, is like the one thing that threatens teenagers to this day. I still haven't gotten it down, if I'm being honest. Hopefully I'll figure it out. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah. I'm waiting for that.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that.
And so, Justin, how do you feel about give me 1 second, actually. How do you feel about the increasing the increased importance of togetherness that has to be established, as Alex has postulated here at NCSSM?
Okay, so I feel like with like an increasing sense of like community at this school, it's, I don't know, like it's really weird to manage your priorities between like your connections at home and then like the friends that you have here, because whenever I just like want to call my friends or something like that, there's always like some activity going on, so I always have to make a decision. So it's kind of a tough call to like know like how to allocate your time for which group of friends you want to talk to.
Right, definitely. It gets really hard to micromanage a lot of different groups of friends, because like not only do you have your one system that I have in place is like A friends, B friends, C friends, D friends. It's fairly cliche, but let me explain the system.
I gotta see that too.
Sorry, John, you're in a C tier.
But no, like, honestly, it really do be like that sometimes. Though it's a system that I have had in place since like middle school, but not to flex, but I do have a fairly large amount of friends. And to categorize them, I'll say like my A friends are like the people that I'm like extremely close to. These are the people that I've either have been with for an extremely long amount of time, or like we know a lot about each other, maybe a bit too much. These are the people that I would probably invite to my wedding, and my best man will probably be picked from that pool.
Mm-hmm.
B friends are the kind of people where it's like I don't have that same time commitment, but we have like that vibe.
Yeah.
Like these are the people that I could easily get a conversation going with. I wouldn't mind spending a very large amount of time with them. C friends, now this is where we start getting into more like the acquaintances kind of category, kind of sphere, because like these are people who I either just don't see very often, or due to certain niche facets in either my personality or theirs, we just don't very mesh well. D tier, that's like pure acquaintances, and then anything other than that is just people I don't really like, which makes sense. And so I established that to illustrate how difficult it might be having to micromanage like all of those groups, because of course like your A friends, they're going to have a different ABCD than you because they're different people. Hopefully you're both in the same A, because if not, that's kind of weird. But most of the time you have to manage, okay, well, I have my B group of friends are over here, and my C group of friends are over here, and I want to get better friends with them so I can upgrade them, but like also B group of friends, that's like a guaranteed fun time. It's weird to have to micromanage that. And so Gray, going over to you, what would you propose as like a good strategy for going about that?
For me, I'm gonna kind of piggyback off what you say and incorporate it into like my strategy.
Solid.
So where you have your very like organized tier list, and that's honestly like mad respect, because I kind of wish I had that. But for me, I'm just kind of like over here like friend, not friend. I kind of like pull everyone into the same thing, and it's like I guess I've always like there's even people I hate I still hang out with, and it's kind of like just a me thing where I love being around like people in general. So like even people that like I kind of mix in my acquaintances with like my best friends, so it's kind of like that thing is like, is this gonna be a good time or not? I don't know. Let's find out. So it's just kind of like
spin the wheel.
Yeah, just very like randomized, but it's honestly you get the results to me like having it randomized makes it more invigorated on like what it's gonna be, because you're never with the same person every time. But the best way I found of like managing all my friends at home and like the people here, I usually like for face-to-face interactions, I kind of do that like here solely. I don't really go like outside of this school if I'm here. But then when I'm home on breaks, that's when I talk to all my people like at home, and I'll usually plan like a bunch of like parties with them, just hanging out stuff.
Yeah.
Because you know the ability to drive definitely opens like a lot of doors for you to just be able to go see whoever you want.
Whenever you want.
Whenever you want.
As long as you have the gas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't drive. So.
Me neither. Well, not legally.
Yeah, not legally for me as well.
But yeah. Like, I remember this past break, like, that Friday, I drove to one of my friend's birthday parties, and, like, I had to drive a lot of people there as well, but yeah.
Chauffeur.
It was fun, and we all got to, like, hang out and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And so, Justin, heading back to you, Gray brought up an interesting point in face-to-face interaction. You said that like you have to. One of the things that you have to micromanage is like whether or not you're going to call your friends. I wanted to know like how you felt about the difference, I guess, because like once you're here in NCSSM, people you see every day that's going to change, and like it changes by the trimester even, and so. How do you make that transition from seeing someone face to face and like sitting down and like grabbing something to eat with them, for example, to seeing them behind a LCD screen?
I feel like for me, it wasn't actually all that bad because, you see, from as I said before, the school that I came from, it was a very small community. So, if you wanted to like continue being friends with that, like in that group, you constantly had to like keep on adjusting. So sometimes I would agree with them, sometimes I would not agree with them. So I wouldn't say like I made the best friends at home, but going back to like that transition between like seeing them face to face all the time and like seeing them behind a screen, it's not terrible because it's just I was never really close to them, and just because I'm calling them right now, it doesn't make that much of a difference.
Okay, cool. Alex, same question.
I think to me, I don't usually like see them or anything on a screen, but I'll definitely like have calls with them and stuff. And we'll just do stuff like play Smash and stuff. So
Fair.
it's not like I'm missing a lot of that because we used to do that before I came here. And I still see them occasionally, but yeah, I don't think it impacts my relationship with them too much or anything.
Yeah, cool. Right?
Yeah, I gotta be honest. Just kind of going off that, like, I don't know how it was for y'all, but for me, like, I already came from a very small town community, so everyone kind of already knew each other. And by coming here, one of the things I was worried about was like, how is this going to affect my relationships at home? But it really, honestly, didn't impact it that much, since like the people I were friends with at home, I'm still friends with them. There are people in middle school. Like I went to a different middle school than I did high school. They weren't like the same community. I'm still friends with people in middle school, and I go out and see them like every break. So I think that's one thing that surprised me was that, you know, my relationships are still intact. Yeah, I don't see them all the time, but it kind of makes those like gatherings, those times where I'm actually seeing them, it makes it like, oh yeah, this is like even cooler because we're not seeing each other all the time.
Yeah. I would definitely say that one thing that I have learned personally is that if someone genuinely cares about you enough to call you like a close friend, then they'll make the effort to continue to be your friend regardless of where you are. For example, I have a friend that I met back in ninth grade of high school year, and we were like dummy tight. The thing was, I was a freshman and she was a senior. And so like when I became a sophomore, she moved to Nevada. And so talk about a long distance friendship. But I just finished talking to her yesterday, so we're still really close because like in that year that we saw each other, like we have that bond. And so it really is the ties that bind when it comes to friends. And also I've realized that having friends is honestly like one of the best things that you can do, like not only just in NCSSM but in almost any other situation. I can't list on 3 hands how many times I've been saved by my friends, especially in terms of like a homework assignment or a excuse us for 1 second, let me pause. And we're back. Anyway, what I was saying was that my friends have saved my hide a number of times with homework assignments, studying for tests, or projects. However, one thing that I have noticed is that given that the campus is so incredibly tight, there's a lot of unhealthy relationships that kind of spiral out of this place. And I think some of that can be attributed to teenage stupidity, because I mean, like, you're only a teenager once. And regardless of how good the advice is coming to you, a lot of times we don't take it, and a lot of bad things are done. But not only that, but I have heard stories about people who have tumultuous kind of home situations that are morphed and or added like an added layer of complexity because of the fact that they're here now away from them. This is harkening back to when we were talking about before with parents. And so would anyone like to speak on that matter?
I guess I'll start like the whole thing. I guess parents, when you talk about negative relationships outside of school, parents are usually like that one thing that's on number one. First of all, we're teenagers, so of course we're not gonna like the authorities over us.
For sure.
But one thing I do notice around here, I stated this before, how you get like a variety of parents. For some kids like to be helicoptered. Some kids like that, like their parents are always like watching over them. Sometimes that's like a good thing, but I do know a lot of people who have helicopter parents and just they don't like it. It makes them want to rebel more, to do more stuff that's going to make their parents upset. And so I feel like that's definitely one of the most negative influence and positive influences on the students here are the relationships with the parents.
Yeah, and I think it's with that fosters kind of a forced independence in a sense. I feel in some ways it's kind of obvious because like you're here without your parents, and like the most advice that they can give you if they're not physically there is already filtered through a phone in a literal sense. Alex, your thoughts?
I think like going back to a dangerous home situation can make it kind of annoying, but I see it almost as a good thing, like not coming back to the parents or anything, but like because you know that whatever is at home is kind of toxic, it makes you want to put more and more effort into what you have here. I personally feel like going back home makes me appreciate that, man, I really have a hall of dudes who are all really interested in me being happy, and succeeding in, so I should probably start succeeding in it.
Yeah, definitely. In a previous podcast, check out our other podcast episodes. We talked about the bond that is formed on Hall with a lot of people centered around a common goal. But it's not just the parents, to be honest, in terms of toxic. Well, not I want to say toxic, but at least not the best of relationships. There's a lot of times that people here just don't really give each other the respect that they deserve, honestly. And I feel in some cases that comes from people not giving themselves the respect that they deserve. Because it's really easy to kind of let go here at NCSM, I would say. It's just kind of like throw all of your ambitions to the wall, do the absolute bare minimum. For example, I know some people who there is some respect to this. They're like finesse their schedule so that like they have no classes on like Friday, but it's like you did all of the work to get here just to not take classes. It's like it's ironic in a sense, is that like the fact that there's kind of a culture on not performing like at maximum, and I guess I'm curious on how that is reinforced by relationships, those both at home and here.
I feel like I'm guilty of of what you said. You know, sometimes there's a lot of classes here I just don't want to put effort into because I don't care, or I feel like it's hindering me. Like when I that jukebox over here, this is in my room. When I was building that for like the past like month or so, I know that I definitely kind of skipped out on some Amstud work and reading because I was like, well, this is what I like, so I'm just not gonna do Amstud. I probably should have just been balancing it better instead of just straight being like, no, I do this, not Amstud.
Yeah, definitely.
Or from Amstud, this is American Studies. It's like a English class and a history class kind of rolled in together. So I guess it's for me, it was just like balancing, like what do I want to do, but what do I have to do? I feel like that's another big thing here is like, not just lack of ambition. I guess I gotta stick up for some people who don't want to do some stuff here, but there's a lot of people who are just kind of interested in this one thing, but they can't do it right now. I remember my first trimester was really fun because I had like computer science classes, but now I have none of that. I'm taking all like these required courses, so I'm kind of just being like, yeah, I'm gonna be a little lazy. I'm not really like interested in this, so I'm just gonna kind of slack off a little bit.
Yeah. In my situation, I'm actually taking a lot more classes that interest me this trimester, but the thing is that they're pretty advanced. So trying to understand the concepts is one obstacle, and trying to balance the amount of work that's required with those subjects along with like your personal life and your interests, that's another obstacle. So it's hard when you're trying to really advance into the subjects that you like. And on top of that, it gets a little hard when your parents keep on like looking over you and your grades. Like that's when it gets really difficult.
Yeah, definitely. Because I guess harking on that, I can't really speak for yourself, but I would assume it must be like difficult taking advanced classes and then like doing the best that you can, and then on like the errant side, or like if you ever slip up and don't perform as well as you would have liked to, having your parents kind of like double down on you, it feels bad.
They always make this. They're like trying to make the same point. Oh, you like this? Why are you not doing good in this subject?
Right.
And it just like it just makes you feel like more bad about yourself.
Yeah, honestly. And like on the other side of that, it's really hard to if you don't have that like support system. Is just like I can't really speak with authority over this, because like I have like that support. Like my parents have been extremely supportive to not only just like my academic performance but my mental health. Shout out to my parents. But I would assume it would be really hard to kind of explain to someone who is not there, someone who's not taking those like sleepless nights, someone who's not sitting there having that anxiety over that test, that like you are struggling, other than just saying, hey, I'm having a hard time here. Like, there's only so much that you can say, and there's only so much that can be understood from that, like, pool. And so there's definitely a disconnect there that I'm not entirely sure how to, like, remedy that. Because, like, you would assume that if you're communicating effectively that, like, hey, there's a lot of things here that are, you know, stressing me out, then, like, you would get that reciprocated as like, hey, okay, I'm gonna meet you where you are. But obviously we're not in a perfect world. Adam ate the apple, and so we're here.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the classes we're taking now are just foreboding sometimes. For like, I really want to like this class, but man, is it hard. So
Yeah.
getting into it is really difficult. And then like, when it becomes so unlikable, and like it also gets associated with those negative feelings from that negative relationship that's pressuring you into it, it becomes something that you just don't want to do at all. So
Right.
like, a lot of people just lose interest straight up. Like, if math was so hard that you couldn't get into it, and then every time you bring up math with your mom, she yells at you, you just don't want to do math anymore because
Yeah,
it
it's
makes
like-
you feel like shit. Like,
This is
come
negative
on.
reinforcement.
Yeah, going off on what Alex said, I feel like you may take like a class that's like it's up your alley, but it's like really difficult. But I feel like after you take that class, you're just gonna look back on those days where you struggled, and you're just gonna be like, wow, those days like really paid off, and I'm at a much better position right now, and I know so much more.
Yeah, I know one thing that I've had. When you come to this school, you do get some elitism, some like both intended
sure.
and unintended.
For sure.
You
Oh,
do
for
get
sure.
your elitism, and sometimes this person is not even trying to be elitist, but you know you just kind of feel like, oh
Yeah,
god.
yeah,
Because I
yeah.
remember I was talking to Justin because I was like infuriated that I got put into pre-cal again for like the third time now,
Mhm.
even though I got like 100 on both of the previous things. They just were like, yeah, you're in pre-cal now. So I was talking about how infuriated I am, and then Justin's like, oh, I'm so sorry, over here in like advanced calculus and stuff. So
Yeah.
like I do
It's
kind of
like-
feel like when I talk about math, it's like, oh, I can't say anything about that because I'm like not qualified or whatever.
Right, and that can put like a damper on how you communicate with people in your relationship. Because
Yeah.
like you come up with this preconceived like, well, I don't want to talk to this person because they're taking advanced classes. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It works in the opposite way though. Like, we don't want to flex it. So I remember going around for the first few weeks and like asking what people's schedules are, and then I would just say I was taking Calc BC, but it was tops 3, and like I would just say, yeah, there were some numbers behind it, but I don't really remember. So that way it sounded like I was just in tops 1 with like all the other tops 1 kids. But,
Yeah, I'm.
Like going back to the friends that you make on campus, I feel like asking your friends for help, like even to the elitists on campus, I feel like that's very vital to your success
Yeah.
on this campus. Because
Yeah.
if you don't tell anyone that you're struggling in a certain subject, you're just gonna like go downhill.
yeah, you're gonna continue
But
to
unlike,
struggle.
unless you have that community of people that are like willing to help you in any circumstance, that's when you're gonna like actually see your grades improve.
Definitely. I feel another important like social lesson that you learn at this place is like how to grin and bear it when it comes to elitism. Because it's like, I would say that a lot of times when you're talking to an elitist, it's because they're aware of their accomplishments. And if it's not that, it's because they're privileged. And so like, and you can't like sit someone down in like a therapist chair and like try and explain to them that's like, hey, you can't talk to people like this.
Yeah.
It's like the biggest change you can always make in the world is yourself. And so like most of the time it's like, all right, you're a C friend. I will see you at 12 a.m. when I need help with this, and I'm gonna grin and bear it. It's like, yeah, I get it. I'm gonna puff you up a little bit, but it's cool. I'm gonna get an A on this.
Yeah,
That's
for
definitely
sure.
been one of the hardest things for me because, like, when it comes to an elitism, I don't really have like a big temperament for that. It's not like I outright hate people who are elitist, but I definitely do get annoyed. There are some particular people which I will not name
For security reasons.
For security reasons. That like they talk, and some of them do intend it, but then there's a few that don't. And it's just like when I'm around them and they're talking to people, I'm just feeling like, dude, like, please, like, I wanna like you.
Right.
Just don't like stop flexing, bro. I know
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
like-
that smart, bro.
It's-
I know that, but like,
Like, you,
yeah.
and then I think a lot of the times some of the elitism that comes to this place is because of the fact that like NC is like a fairly accredited high school. Is they do their
Fairly accredited.
I'm gonna follow that up
Nothing
with
too
saying that they do their best to make themselves look the best
Yeah,
in
I think it's
press.
very
That
cosmetic.
is definitely
That
It
is very true.
When I came to this, or when I was coming to the school, I looked at like the website. I was like, "Whoa, it's so professional looking,"
Yeah.
and it's like they have all these classes. Wow! And then I go and I see like my American Studies teacher's website. It looks like some crusty thing out of like 1994. And it's like, that's the perfect like analogy for like looking at the main site, and then you just go to like these like a back door like create crusty sites. I think that's like the best analogy because like you come to the school, it's like, oh, it's gonna be all prestigious and stuff. I gotta have to be like on the big brain and all that.
Right.
But then you come here and I was really happy because all the people here, they're just kind of like, we're all like about the same. We're all like chill. We're all just kind of like,
Yeah, there's
dang,
like
I hate school, but I love it.
Actually, adding on to what Gray was saying, before I came to this school, I was really worried about the residential life, just seeing all these new faces, especially since like I've never been in this state before. Like I'm from South Carolina. I'm actually from South Carolina, so it was a pretty big transition for me. But at first I was like a little, I guess, foreign to the concept of a residential life. But after a few weeks after orientation, I found that I actually really liked the residential life, and I found that the academics were the actual hassle.
Yeah, for sure.
I had the opposite thing. I was so worried about the academics, and then I came here and I was like, wow, I should have been more prepared for like just the social thing because I was so nervous about like, God, these academics, I don't know if I'm gonna be good. And then I come here, it's like, oh, I can like actually manage this.
I mean, yeah, the reason like
Yeah.
why I was like not so worried about the academics was because like there's so much opportunity here.
Yeah.
Like I can just go and do whatever I want. What's the big deal? But then I'm in my multi-class and I'm just like, whoa.
Amen to that, brother.
I feel like
it's literally multivariable
Yeah.
calculus.
Oh,
It's
there's
kind
more
of
than-
difficult.
There's more than one variable. Oh,
I love how he just like he'll give you like one example. He's like, all right, you're good. Just skip. I'm like, dude, please.
The proof
That's
is
the
left
thing.
as an exercise for the reader.
They give you that like one example. It's like, oh yeah, I can do this, and then you get on the test and like, oh God, what is this?
He ain't playing.
Crying, like, oh,
I feel
man.
like one thing important to note is that like the do whatever. I feel like there's a very big asterisk next to that.
for sure,
yeah.
for sure.
Because one thing I was really hyped about coming here is like, oh, I could take all the computer science classes. Yes,
Exactly.
technology. And then I come here, it's like, yes, American Studies is a required class. Math is a required class. Take this language.
Yeah.
How about biology? You like biology? Take biology.
Yeah.
Amen
Yeah.
to
And
that.
it's getting better. I know that they're adjusting it with semesters. For
for sure,
clarification, we're kind of in the transitional period. Right now, we are currently in trimesters, but next year we're switching to semesters. So they're kind of balancing out like the required courses we have to take, along with like, oh, now we're gonna have like less classes we're gonna be able to take. So how are we gonna still be able to take those classes that we want?
Yeah, and so it allows for I think this is an assumption, but it allows for people to pursue like their interests like just a little bit more on
Yeah.
like a more magnified scale, because of course like with a semester schedule you're going to be in that class for longer, you're going to learn the content better, hopefully.
Yeah.
I don't know, like next year I won't be here, so it do not matter. I won't be here next year, so it might like flop, and that's
big
gonna
possibility,
suck.
yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't though. We don't want to speak
sake.
negative.
For our sake.
Yeah, we don't want to speak negative things into existence. But I feel that concentration on the academics is also going to change how relationships and friendships work here.
Yeah.
Because like in the trimester schedule, at least from what I've experienced, is that like once a new tri hits, you meet completely different people.
Yeah.
Like
Sure,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
I remember in the very first, we're gonna go back to the past, so like the very first episode of the this podcast that we're doing. I remember you were talking about how like each trimester is basically like a year of college. So like your first trimester is your freshman year, where you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Second trimester is like your sophomore year. It's like I still don't know what I'm doing, but I know like a little more than I did. And then you get like third tri is your junior year, where you kind of like start enjoying like, oh yeah, I kind of know what I'm doing. And then you said like the senior year is like your whole senior year because you're kind of all familiar with that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I don't know how that's going to be with semesters, though, because I do know that a lot of people like will categorize the trimesters like first year, first try. You know, that's just kind of like introductory. Second year, second try is like, or second try, first year, second try. That's like, oh, here's a depression session. It's winter. Have fun. Like,
Yeah, winter hit.
never see the sun again. You're gonna be in forever.
Jesus Christ.
And then you
Winter
have,
sucks.
I'm not at third try yet. We're not at third try yet, so I'm not sure how that's gonna be.
I
But
bet it's gonna be like just
it's looking like it's going to be pretty good.
Mhm.
And then for senior year, I especially feel like it's going to be like just up from there. Just
Yeah,
kind of like you
definitely.
got this little, and then it goes like
Yeah.
that. That's how I'm predicting it to be.
Yeah.
Just drew a picture for a
Yeah, you couldn't
podcast.
see it. It was
Yeah.
all right. Let's see here. Let's check the derivative of this line.
What he did was draw a line that was positive, then was negative, then was positive again.
All right. So we can see that the dy dx went from positive to
Justin
therefore
was
it was concave. No.
But yeah, definitely. I feel that the friendships and relationships that you make here at NC is definitely really good in terms of serving as a platform for growing up.
Yeah,
Getting to like the whole big picture, because like around like your junior and senior year of high school, I mean, like there's so many rom-coms that'll tell you the same thing, but like it's like a very important transitional year. Like I'm gonna be in a completely different space 365 days from now, and this so all of you. Of course some of that is granted because you can't predict the future, but it doesn't really happen too much in your life on such a grand scale as it's about to, which is scary. And one thing that can alleviate that fear is the tie-step mind. And so we're getting ready to go to the conclusion of the episode, and so any final thoughts, notes, comments?
Yeah. So to kind of
Yeah, you go.
all right, to incorporate like the whole where we started with like external friendships and then we kind of moved to internal friendships. I feel like that's kind of like sums up how like important it is during these changes, these times of change is when you're gonna really find out like who your truest friends are, who's gonna stick by you, and who's gonna be like your best friend or A tier friend or whatever.
A-tier.
However you group your friends, your A tier friend.
But yeah, this is definitely one of the hardest things we're ever gonna do in our lives. Then there's not a day that it doesn't cross my mind where I'm like, dang, this is the toughest thing I'm gonna do.
And then also like it might be scary because like it's gonna be over like really quick, and who knows like who you'll still be friends with. I mean, you'll probably still be friends with your A friends, but like your C friends might vanish.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah.
like, wow, that's crazy.
Never talk to him again.
Yeah. But a lot of people ostracize themselves from their graduating class as soon as they graduate because they kind of want to reinvent themselves, and you can't really blame them because at that point it's like, I am a new person now. I am literally like 4 years older. I'm doing different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for sure.
It's gonna be tough, but we have people to help us out.
See, relationships.
Yes.
Relationship.
Bingo.
But I feel like one thing that I'll say is that I think it's always important to like maintain contact with friends regardless of where you are, because who knows, you might need them in the future or something.
Yeah.
Or something might come across and you might just need them. So I feel like friendships, it may be hard, but I feel like it's very essential.
Definitely. It's a lot of work keeping up friendships, especially when we have to juggle so many things, like mainly school.
Yeah.
Right now, that's like I would say that's like the biggest kind of stipulation to that school.
Still struggling.
Yeah. Yeah. But as we grow up and eventually have to balance more things like taxes and mortgages and
Oh,
yeah, that's
Wait,
like
now you're scared me.
Yeah, I'll just
2
commit
years
tax
from now.
fraud and not do it.
Literally 2 years from now, I will have to pay for everything. God.
Oh my God.
we'd be like,
Nah.
that's capitalism.
That's gonna hurt.
But yeah, it's And it's going to get more difficult because now you're going to have to manage more things like weddings, funerals, and the like. But
Yeah.
it's manageable because people do it all the time.
Yeah.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up. Thank you all for joining me for this. This has been the Quixotic Topic with your host, I'm Daquan. See you next time.